So how do you feel about, since we're talking about privacy and that kind of personal information, putting your phone number on LinkedIn as a means of contact?
So personally, there's two opinions, as a candidate and as a recruiter. As a recruiter, that makes my life so much easier, because if I want to call you, I can. My advice on this is, if you're currently looking for a position right here and now, put it on there. As soon as you're done with your job search, take it off. Or also maybe just provide an email address and say somewhere, if they send you an email, you're happy to provide it. And you can also create an email address just for the purpose of applications and jobs. Also, with going to emails, I know we kind of touched about it briefly earlier, but it's very, very important that you have a professional sounding email.
Yes.
I have seen quite a bit of very cute email addresses, but it's kind of awkward when I have to include the hiring manager and Boopsie Cutie 97 on there as well.
Don't you hate that?
And then at that point I look at it and, and I'm like, excuse me, do you have another email account that I maybe possibly, but also how do you politely tell that to somebody without sounding like a jerk?
I mean, that's another thing that I talk about, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I go in depth in this in my coaching program. But that's something that I feel like I should probably just bring to LinkedIn in some type of post, because people, they take offense to it, and it's really, people take so many things personally, and it's not personal at all. It's really, I mean, we're just trying to help you, right? It's only to your advantage.
We're just trying to give you the best chance, but the same thing for your voicemail. Your voicemail is very important.
Yeah.
And if you say, I've heard someone of a recent one, and I called them and I went to leave a voicemail, and it was like, hello? Oh, and you know those ones that you're supposed to start talking. I'm actually a recruiter. They're like, hello, my name is Larisa Zhukova. And so then they're like, oh, gotcha. And I'm like, it's just very, just leave a normal one. I would really suggest the one that I kind of have. I literally say, hey, my name is Larisa Zhukova. Thank you for calling me. I'm unavailable right now. If you leave me a voice message, I will happily get back to you in the next 24 to 48 hours and earlier if I can. I hope you have a delightful day. Thank you. Bye. Just make it.
I'm one of those people that stick with the default. I keep saying I'm going to tailor my voicemail.
Because then at that point also, if I have the wrong number, I have no idea. So a lot of recruiting right now, what we're doing is we're texting you, calling you, and emailing you. It's the 3 threes.
Okay.
So you're literally going to get them all pretty much at the same time. Some companies are using a tool for it. Some companies are not using a tool for it.
Okay.
But essentially, I'm going to call you first or send you an email first. And then I'm going to also send you a text message that says, hey, my name is Larisa. You applied to A, B, and C with this company, or are you interested in new opportunity? I saw you on LinkedIn, whatever platform. And so expect those. So set up your voicemail normal. Make sure your email is good. Make sure you actually check all of those, or at least one of those, and respond back to us. Also, I do think it's funny. And one of the things that I try to tell people to avoid is if you have a landline. So you know how people have landlines still some?
Yeah, I hear about it.
If I send you a text message, you're never going to get it.
Never.
Also, if your child answers the phone, they might not answer the same professional way as you would like. And also, whatever happens in your personal life does not affect me, But if I call, I am a woman. So if your significant is wondering why I'm asking for you, and that may be an issue in your life, you should stick to your cell phone.
Very, very good tips. You would think it's common knowledge, but very good tips, especially if you are actively seeking a role, right? I will admit I've gotten a little bit lazy with stuff like this since I have, some experience now.
Of course.
But it still applies to us all because, like you said, what if, you call and you get the default voicemail and is this really Jasmine? Like, who knows, right? So little things like that, they seem small and minor, but they're everything. And you really need each advantage that you can get because the competition is stiff.
Well, here's the thing you got to remember. Not only do you have tons of applicants, but if we're calling you and you don't call back within a specific time, sometimes those positions, they close.
That's true too.
So I'm not saying, sometimes we do post them for a week or two, but
right.
There is a constraint on time. And I worked recently with a hiring manager for a site level, and we had clinical trial associates. So CTA kind of roles based on site. My hiring manager, this was a Tuesday. I got it at 9 p.m. and they wanted me to have these people ready to go by Friday.
Oh, wow.
So if you didn't call me back within literally quite that Wednesday,
right,
we're done. So you call me back tomorrow, so I don't have this anymore. Wow. And yeah, there's some that are very hard pressed. And if you don't get it by the deadline, you are essentially cut off. Even if I would like to submit you, I would have loved to submit you when I called you, but you were not available. That's why we send the text, the email, the phone call, because if you are interested, and that's why you need to have the resume updated. You need to have, if you're in the job search, sometimes I don't have time to wait for you to do it in 12 to 24 hours. I just don't. And the other thing about submitting and the process and when a recruiter calls you, be honest. If you have ever worked, like if you already interviewed with this company 6 times, don't waste my time or yours. They're not interested. Let it go. If it's the same position, essentially. If it's a very large corporation and it's different titles, absolutely go for it. But depending on also when you applied, who your recruiter was, because they could have that position as well. But just make sure you're honest about it, because the recruiter is there to help you, but they're most likely not going to want to help you if you keep lying to them. It's a relationship just like any other relationship.
Absolutely. Which I don't think people quite get that. They don't think of it as a relationship. But it's very much so a relationship that you create, you start, you develop it, and then you have to nurture it and kind of really, kind of, I call it like watering it, take care of it. Like you don't just, reach out to people when you only need something. But see how you can, kind of help each other out essentially. Maybe, of course you're looking for a role, but then maybe they might have other roles that you might have some colleagues or friends that are interested in that you can shoot over to them, and then vice versa. It kind of keeps you at the top of their mind. So, when they have a role, then it's like, oh, okay, I'm thinking about Jasmine because she just recently sent me 2 potential candidates or whatever.
Not only that, but a recruiter could be very helpful to you, even if you're not currently searching for a job. By the time you will, at some point, you're going to want to go somewhere.
Right.
Eventually. Be able to help you.
Right.
They do this all the time. So they can look over your resume for you. They can help you with interview prep, because I interview an average of probably 20 to 30 hours a week. I interview people.
Wow.
So this is what I do. So a lot of times I know what the hiring manager is going to ask. I know what's currently trendy in the new questions. Sometimes questions change. We all think that we're going to get asked if we're a good team player and what is our weakness and what our strength. But sometimes they change how they, and we as humans forget the answers to what we actually want to answer. And we start getting a little bit more reserved when we answer them, or the opposite, and just kind of say everything that's on our mind, because we don't interview every day. We don't know what to say. So they can walk you through the process. They can help you with these things, but they're not going to do that if you haven't built that relationship. It's like any other career where we're very busy. Just, I know it seems like we eat bonbons and just go through LinkedIn, but it's a little bit more complicated. And if you ask somebody, they will be the best help ever in terms of your career search. Mm-hmm. And also to leverage other relationships. We have worked within different industries. We have worked within different companies. We also have connections all over the place. Mm-hmm. So even if we can't particularly help you in that role, we can also prepare you for that because we have a relationship. And I have helped you before in the past, or whatever it may have been.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because I try to stress the importance of networking and building these relationships and these connections. And people just don't want to get on board. Searching for a job in today's industry, whether it's CRA or banking or food industry, marketing, whatever, it's not the same, right? There's the times of just going into somewhere and saying, hey, I want to apply for a job, or calling and saying, hey, I want to apply, or even just simply submitting your resume. That's over.
It's done. And the other thing, I don't think a lot of people realize, so even if you apply online, and especially CRA, this is why it's important, CRA PMs, obviously everybody's always hiring, what seems like now, correct? So like if you go on any major CRO, mid-level, or even some of the smaller ones, which almost seem to not exist anymore. Everybody has gotten recently bought out or something. Yep. What is the culture? How many days out of the year, like out of the month, are you going to travel? Because there's a lot of things that are said in the interview process, but what do you know that is actually true? We as recruiters literally talk to every company, CRAs, PMs, CTAs, whatever. We know exactly the culture of it before you even do. Because we interview, especially if it's agency recruiter, they're interviewing everybody from different things. So they hear everything. They hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. They know exactly how many people are 110% of utilizations versus 70. We know how many different therapeutic areas they have, or how many protocols they have, or how many, everything. So if you call a recruiter and you have a good relationship with them before you start applying, and you're looking for a specific goal in your mind, say that you're currently traveling at 95%, and you have some sort of a situation at home where you would like to kind of tailor it down to more of the 75, 80 range, you can say to them, I know you talk to quite a few companies. Which ones are you actually seeing that it happens?
Exactly. That's so true too. Which I guess people don't really, and now even sitting here listening to you, mention all the other things that you can kind of leverage from speaking with a recruiter. I guess we don't really understand just how integral recruiters are to the process of not just getting like that one job that you're trying to get, right? But like you said, so much more in terms of helping you interview, helping you get your resume together, helping you get referred to other roles out there. It's wow. I never really thought about it that way. So it's interesting to hear you say all of these things and like and show like so many ways that you can connect with someone and and really take advantage of that connection, that opportunity versus, always just constantly saying, I applied to this job. Am I a good fit? Or do you have any entry level CRA roles? And then once they say no, then it's it. Like there's keep the conversation going. There's so much more that you can learn, that you can take and use for that the next opportunity, or even like you said, when you spoke with someone and called them back a year later, you just never know.
Absolutely. And especially if you really want to work in this industry, connection is everything.
Yeah.
So for example, one of my first bosses, I guess my first manager, I still talk to him about at least five times a year. And he's also in recruiting, things like that. We're kind of in different spaces at this point. However, if he is looking for something, he's always like, oh, by the way, this is what I'm looking for. If you know anything within your beehive, let me know. And I do the same thing. A lot of us recruiters, we do know each other very well. And so if we don't know a specific thing, we can kick your resume around to quite a few recruiters. Because for us, I think a lot of people think that recruiters, we're just trying to get paid.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Obviously that would be the end goal, right? By the way, also shout out to if you are working with a recruiter and you have to pay them, wrong. Because you should never, as a candidate, you should never pay a recruiter to recruit.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, it's very rare that I hear something like that, but if that is happening to you, that should not be happening.
Oh, wow.
No recruiter is going to ask you for any money.
Wow.
Just throwing that out there before. Yeah, but outside of that, if we do think you're a really great candidate, think about it as your coworkers. Think about everything that you spend a lot of time with them. And do you make friends? So do we. Yeah. I know, shocking. Yeah. So a lot of my friends are actually recruiters because we have always worked together and a lot of us have worked in the same industry. So we know a lot of different recruiters. So if we think it's a great candidate and we really had a connection with you, and we're like, listen, I'm not able to use this person, but I can either forward it to my contacts, or you can reach out to this recruiter, and this recruiter, see how it goes.
Yep.
If you establish a real connection with this person, and it's not like, can you get me a job? Can you get me a job? Can you get me a job? How about the job? You will most likely form a real connection. They will be able to help you. They will be able to guide you through your career. And we have coworkers. We don't do this alone. We don't recruit in a corner by ourselves.
Good to know. And I want to make sure we touch on professionalism. Because, so many people, they'll say they can't get in touch with anybody, or they can't even get anybody to call them back, or, all these different can't. But then you set up a call with them and you have a phone screen, or you send them an email and you get no response. Or they respond and it's like almost like a text message type of response. Speak as to how important professionalism is in this industry when it comes to communicating with recruiters. I always tell my clients that from the moment you start or initiate that connection process, that's really the beginning of your interview. So you always got to present yourself as if you're in interview mode and not just casually send out these things or pick up the phone or hop on a call and can't show your face or what have you. So speak to that.
So I would like to also start off with this. You are your own personal brand.
Absolutely.
It does not matter which industry you are at. You are always your own personal brand. This is like very important to note because of the next following things I'm going to say. Every time you interact with anybody within this industry or the other, that will be the perception they're going to carry with them of you whenever they move forward in the process or not. That can haunt you for a very long time if you do certain things. Whenever a recruiter reaches out to you on LinkedIn, on message, whatever the form of communication may be, you need to respond very professionally. You don't know them personally. You are there to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
You need to seem very put together. You need to have a consistent train of thought when presenting information that you would like to be displayed. When you are giving times, dates, availability, it can't just be like Monday 2, Thursday 4, yeah, I'm good. No. I need you to give me blocks of time. I need you. Also, it's very important to note when you give me those blocks of time, I expect you to be somewhere where you're Zoom accessible, not in your car, and that way you are fully prepared to interview with pants on or a skirt, whichever one of you're choosing. I need you to look presentable. I need you to sound like a grown adult that is looking for a job. That goes in emails, that goes in all form of communication. Even in phone screens, I also need you to prepare ahead of time. I had a candidate that I spoke with a couple years ago, and we had a scheduled time to meet, and I called the individual, and they said, hello. And I was like, hello, my name is Larisa Zhukova. I'm a recruiter from blank, blank, blank. We had time arranged at 3:30 today. Is now still a good time to talk? She said, sure, but can you talk for the next 5 minutes? I just ate ice cream and I have a brain freeze and my mouth is numb. If I was making this up, I would make more money than I do now. Like, it was very odd of an experience. And I literally had to call the hiring manager and say, I do not think we should move forward with this candidate because of the first 5 minutes of our conversation. I also had an interview when there was a Zoom call, and Zoom calls are a whole new territory for all of us. Mm-hmm. But in the back, and this was an actually panel interview with the hiring manager. I was sitting in on the interview as the HR representative. And in the back of it, the mother of the candidate walked into his bedroom and started folding his clothes in the drawers. And nonchalantly, like nothing happened. He said nothing. We said nothing because it was very awkward. But there's certain situations that it seemed almost comical, but they're true. And when you really need to be aware of your surroundings, what is in your background, and if that's the case, make it blurry. Like if it looks unattractive, blank it out. I understand we're living in close quarters. It's new territory for all of us. But you really need to make sure you are professional. And some of those things just do not line up.
No, I think that's the funniest story.
Also very important when you do Zoom calls, when you're interviewing, this or this is not acceptable. You need to have your face in the shot, and I expect to clearly see it, because I have interviewed somebody and literally the whole thing I saw was just their nose.
And
I asked them if they were having some technical issues, and they were like, no, everything's fine. And I know you can see yourself in the Zoom calls because I can clearly see myself now. So I know this is not true. Everything is not fine. So really just be careful about when you're interviewing how you present an image. Remember, you are a brand. Would Beyonce do this? No, neither should you.
But I always tell people it's just like going in person. Like, you're not going to bring your mom and have her fold your clothes while you're in the office interviewing, right?
Absolutely not. I don't think you can do that in today's time or environment or job. No, absolutely not.
I mean, you would think it's just common sense, but yes, and I would reiterate now, knowing that people are doing this, even if it's just a call with, even if it's a chat, so to speak, with a recruiter. Like I said, I always advise everyone to treat every conversation like it's the real thing. And you don't want your mom in the background of that either, right? Like, absolutely. If you don't have the time, or if that's not a moment where you can like fully concentrate on the call and not have people in the background call, I've had a call where I guess this person was in the kitchen, and it looked like the whole family was in the background cooking. The whole family. It was like 3 people. And it was a mess because it wasn't like they were quiet either. They were talking, and people just, they don't get it. And you, like you said, you don't know what to say because they think it's normal. You don't want to be rude and offend anyone, but come on, like there's no other space.
I understand, 2020 and COVID changed the industry as a whole and how we perceive our reality of the office. So everything did change last year. However, we've had now about a year to accumulate,
yes,
into this groove, to get into Zoom calls and understand this so much better. I would say anytime you interview, whenever it's with a recruiter, hiring manager, anybody, from the hiring, from the very beginning to the very end, I need you to walk into a quiet room where the background is a very crisp, precise place of a work environment. If you are not able to get on it with your boss, this is unacceptable to get on it with me. Also, outside of that, make sure you actually speak correctly. You don't have your mom in the background, your significant other, whoever it is.
Yep.
It's just basic how you would interview.
Yep. Basic, right?
You would think that, but here we are, Jasmine.
But I love the clothes folding story.
Oh, by the way, the good news is he got the job. So.
Oh, wow. He must have been a really strong candidate.
He was a very strong candidate, but I think for the rest of his life, he is going to be, they're literally going to bring it up. So, you lose some, you win some. But I think it's definitely an interesting story. Yes,
it is. And I know we've been going on for quite a while now. So it's getting late, so I know we got to wrap it up, but I did want to at least touch on the behavioral situational questions. And because I get that question a lot from people, I get to those, I'm doing fine until I get to those questions and then I freeze up. So what advice would you give to people on how to best answer those types of questions?
Behavioral questions are really how you behave in a normal day-to-day operation. I would not lie about those. Here's why. If you're actually an introvert and you're going to answer as an extrovert, you're going to come off very fake and authentic. You're not going to be yourself. So you are going to freeze up and you're going to give a terrible answer. So at that point, you're most likely not going to get the job anyways. So if you focus it and think about it, and then answer as you actually would do it on a normal to like day-to-day procedure, whatever that is. If they ask you, how do you handle conflict in a group? How do you handle it? Just be honest, because on every team, they do want a certain mix of personalities. So no answer is really wrong unless you're going to just say, hey, I'm just going to walk out, which I highly doubt any candidate would ever say those things out loud. And they need to stop freezing. The point of the interview is for you to interview them as much as they interview you.
Absolutely.
So if it's not a good cultural fit, that's okay. You will need to find another job that does correlate to that. However, making something fit is not going to work out in the long run. Just be your true, authentic self. And if they don't like it, that's okay. Not everybody's going to like you. And even in your professional career, you need to realize that that's a stance you're willing to take.
Yep. I agree 100%. And I feel like, especially as an entry level, aspiring CRA type of professional, you go in sometimes in a desperation mode. So you feel like every opportunity is the last opportunity and you have to say whatever, right? But like you said, definitely it can, when you go into that type of mindset, it can definitely put you at a disadvantage and hurt you more than be helpful.
Well, Jasmine, remember how we went back to that desperation mode? The desperational signals that you're giving off if you are desperate is you're only going to attract desperate. So at that point, what are you actually doing? Because even if they did give you the opportunity or the job, you might not be very happy for it. And you don't want to walk into your first, even CTA or whatever position and be there 2 to 3 months. I have seen that very often. And the problem with that is to get another opportunity after that is very difficult for candidates to overcome, because at that point you seem flaky and like you are not dedicated in your career field, even when given the opportunity. So I would be very hesitant and do a lot of research on the companies when you are interviewing, even as an entry level, even more so as an entry level, because when you have experience, you have the flexibility to walk away. You have the flexibility to maybe go back to your previous position. As a new developing employee within an organization, you do not have that choice and you do not have that ability.
Absolutely. So what would you say would be your final thoughts or your final words that you would, or final advice that you would give to an aspiring CRA, somebody who, maybe they have no experience, somebody who has some experience as a CTA, study coordinator, but they're looking to get in that CRA role and they've been, struggling, getting people to even call them back or respond to their LinkedIn messages. What would be your final words to those people?
I really think that it's very important to network within everybody, join all sorts of organizations, but make sure when you are in those organizations, whenever they be clinical related, outside of clinical research, just networking, that you are actually dedicated to that cause and you say you're going to do the things that you're going to do. I have seen a lot of people recently that while they are trying to network and do things, they are not following up, and it's making the organization seem of less caliber, and it makes them seem very unattractive as a candidate. The other thing is I would say is just do your research. Just do your research on the job opportunity, on your resume. Make sure everything that we talked about today is in there. It is done correctly. Because even if you apply to that same organization again, if your resume was there misspelled, you could be on like a list that they're like, this was previously there before, and it could be as fraud. You don't want to give any company an opportunity to cancel your brand.
Yeah.
Make sure you always step first with your brand as you as an individual and lead with that. So whenever you're interviewing, be your true authentic self. Whenever you're sending out your resume, whenever you are networking, whatever the case may be, and really follow up with those relationships that you have formed within the industry, because they're going to be the ones that are going to support you throughout your career.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Larisa, for taking the time to share with us today and give us your wonderful, valuable opinions and feedbacks about the industry from the recruiter's perspective. You know, I would love to, I'm probably eventually going to maybe do like a roundtable. I've been getting questions about that. So we would love to have you back on anytime.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. So just let me know when the roundtable is, and maybe we can reconvene a part 2 of this too, because I think like we left out so much as well.
I think so too. Yeah, you know, it's just so much to cover, right? So definitely a part 2. I would definitely, you know, love to have you on again. So thank you so much.
Of course, the pleasure has been all mine.